I don't think that most people have the right mindset when it comes to eliminating depersonalization realization. And I get it. I understand why they don't have the right mindset. And it's because the symptoms are so terrifying and it distracts people, right? I tell people all the time, I'm like, listen, I wouldn't wish these symptoms on my worst enemy. It was without question the most terrifying, debilitating, horrible thing that I ever went through in my entire life. Feeling detached from your body and the world feeling fake and dreamlike, and all the other symptoms that come with that a lot of times. I just did a short video on YouTube and I read the intake form that a client that I just started working with filled out. I mean, generalized anxiety, panic attacks, insomnia, anxious thoughts. People a lot of times have OCD, depression, you name it. But DPDR are definitely usually what people will say are the worst symptoms. But I just want to clarify, it's a lot of times not just DPDR. You've also got a whole host of other symptoms that come with DPDR. But because the symptoms are so terrifying and because people don't have the right education about what's going on, they use deductive reasoning and conclude that these symptoms are the problem. That's what I did because, again, I didn't know what was going on. And you get into a wrestling match with the symptoms and you build your whole world around trying to get rid of the symptoms when not only are the symptoms not the problem, but they are the solution. Now, they are the solution to a problem that doesn't exist, which is you being in life-threatening danger. But what's happened is there's so much stress, particularly traumatic stress, that your brain is convinced that you are under life-threatening danger. And depersonalization and realization are like your brain circuit breaker. Just like if you had overwhelming power, a power surge in your house, the circuit breaker would temporarily disconnect the appliances to ensure that they don't get burnt out. Likewise, whenever you reach a state of traumatic stress, if you're experiencing DPDR, your brain has decided to help disconnect you in the form of making you feel detached from either your body or the material world or both. And that is to protect you and make your death by lion less painful. You're not being eaten by a lion. I assume you're not. But your brain thinks that you are. And you could see DPDR as nature's last gift, right? If you're going to be eaten, you might as well not feel it. And if you were being eaten by a lion, you would really be thankful that you were numb and dissociated. I will tell you, even though these symptoms are terrifying outside of their appropriate context, if I actually was dying, I would much rather feel detached from my body and everything feel fake and dreamlike. I always tell my wife, I'm like, man, if I'm on a hospital bed dying someday and I'm like not conscious or something, please just pump me full of anesthesia. Just make me as numb as possible so I don't feel it as I fade off into the next life. But anyway, therein lies the predicament, is you're experiencing symptoms that are designed to mitigate the pain of death whenever you're not dying. And you're just trying to make it through your job, and you're just trying to have coffee with your spouse, and you're just trying to show up to your kids' soccer game, or you're just trying to make it through school. You're just trying to raise your family, and you've got these death symptoms that are deploying. And outside of the appropriate context, which is life-threatening danger where there's a lot of pain, these symptoms become tormenting. But regardless, even as tormenting as these symptoms are and all the other symptoms that oftentimes accompany them, they are still biologically correct for the state of your nervous system. And this is one of the things that I tell my clients. We have to get you the right information. Everybody wants the techniques. People are like, Jordan, you're holding out on us, right? You got all these secret techniques. I mean, there's really not that many techniques. That's not what mostly gets people out of a state of traumatic stress. There definitely are techniques. Do some progressive muscle relaxation. Do some 4-7-8 breathing, and that will help. But studies have shown 45% of what's going to communicate enough safety to your nervous system to help get you out of this response is co-regulation. Humans heal humans. And a big portion of recovery as well is getting the right information, which I'm giving to you right now. Even just understanding what the heck is going on can really start to calm you down. Now, is it going to be enough? No, there's layers to this. I always say it's like an onion, right? Remember Shrek? Ogres are like onions. That was the worst Shrek impersonation. I'll never do that. Yeah, I probably will do it again. But anyway, recovery is like layers. Like, why is your nervous system in a state of overwhelming traumatic stress? It's not just one thing. There's a lot of layers to this. And whenever I'm working with clients, that's what we're doing. We're addressing these layers. But in this video, we're addressing that layer of misinformation and fear about the symptoms. So you can calm down a little bit and know, make sure you see a doctor. Make sure to get a medical evaluation. But whenever my clients come to work with me, they're like, yeah, the doctors, they just can't find anything, which creates even more fear. It's almost like people would rather there be some sort of disease because at least they would know why these symptoms are there. But I'll tell you why they're there. They're there because your nervous system is overwhelmed. First, whenever our brain perceives threat, we try to fight or flee. And if we can't fight or flee and our ability to cope is overwhelmed, that's whenever we go into a trauma state, a state of traumatic stress. And it's at that point that some people's nervous system will deploy these symptoms of dissociation. Dissociation comes from a Latin root word that means to sever or separate, and make you feel very fake and dreamlike, or make the world feel fake and dreamlike, make you feel super detached from your body. Time can feel distorted and your memory can be thrown off, and there's all kinds of anxious thoughts, and your ability to think gets compromised. Your prefrontal cortex starts to shut down. There's a boatload of symptoms that can start to happen, okay? But nonetheless, the symptoms are appropriate, okay? They are biologically correct. And as long as you spend all of your time trying to get rid of symptoms that are uncomfortable but not dangerous and are actually your brain's solution to dissociate you from what it thinks is overwhelming danger, you are a dog chasing its tail. You're a hamster on a hamster wheel. But 99% of what you're going to see online with these symptoms is, how do I get over the symptoms? And you have the wrong mentality. So in this video, we're bringing some education as to why the symptoms are there. Overwhelming traumatic stress. Usually it builds up over time, not always. And the second thing is, you're wasting your time if you're trying to get rid of these symptoms directly. That's like trying to pick apples off an apple tree. If you really want to get to the root, so the apples stop growing, the apples represent DPDR in this case, the roots are all the different reasons that your body is in a state of overwhelming stress. And again, there's many layers to this. We've got fear of symptoms. We've got a lot of tension, adrenaline, and emotion that needs to be released in your body. We've got avoidance of sensory triggers. We need to get you hydrated. We need to get you eating properly. You need a lot of co-regulation. somebody that's safe to build a secure attachment relationship, communicate safety in the form of hope, being there to guide you through the process of getting back in your body and releasing that buildup. These are just some of the layers that I address with my clients. And sometimes there's more. I have a lot of clients that also have OCD. That's a whole nother thing that we have to address. You know, some people are people pleasers, so we've got to set up boundaries. Some people put on a performance all the time, which I used to do all the time, by the way. And just so you know, just in case you're curious, this is not a performance. I'm like this all the time. Like, I don't put on a performance whenever I do videos. This is the real me. And that is part of why I'm able to stay so calm, is because I'm not trying to be somebody that I'm not. I used to try to be somebody that I was not. My whole life was a performance. And even initially during my career, whenever I would get with clients, I felt this pressure to go into like this coaching mode. Very robotic. And eventually, I'll tell you the story. Just, I don't want to get too off track, but I had a client, he asked me about my opinion about distraction. And I've just spent the last 6 years seeing this distraction stuff destroy people's lives. At best, it's going to produce temporary results, but it doesn't work in the long term. And so I'm quite passionate about it. And I was like, nah, I don't want to share my opinion about this because I'll be too passionate. And, you know, I don't want you to, you know, I don't want you to think less of me. And he's like, no, just be real. Just tell me. And I finally let go of the mask. I finally let go of the performance, right? And I was just fully myself, like I'm being right now. I spoke the way that I would naturally. My hand gestures, everything was just normal. Myself, authentic. And whenever I got done, he was like, dude, that was awesome. He was like, you should always talk like that. That was, I don't know how many years it's been at this point. Maybe 4 years ago. It's been at least, I think it's 4 years ago. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less. But anyway, do you see how there's so many layers? Because it's exhausting to put on a performance all day. Maybe you need to set up boundaries with some toxic, abusive family member. We get that all the time. Maybe especially emotions. We've got an emergency room physician in our program right now, and he was able to get out of DPDR pretty fast. And he was able to get even out of a lot of generalized anxiety pretty fast. But he has a lot of emotions that he's been running from. And I think it was 2 calls ago in our meetings, he showed up and he said, I finally faced my emotions. And it was just so wonderful, because I'm talking like he would get emotionally dysregulated and he would have to take a break from his practice because of how dysregulated he would get if he tried to face his emotions. So anyway, you know, coaching is very individualized. Recovery is very individualized. But what we need to do is we need to address one layer at a time. And I think that the first layer when it comes to DPDR that we have to peel is this layer of fear that's due to misinformation. Depersonalization, derealization are not a symptom of anxiety. That is misinformation. And the people that are telling you that have not done their research. They're probably trying to help you, and that's fine. But anybody who has experienced DPDR, not always, usually has a history of anxiety. And they'll tell you, like, this is not just, like, I've had anxiety. This is not just anxiety. What are you, like, this is a whole different animal here. That was me. I walked in anxiety for many years before DPDR showed up. And once DPDR kicked in, it was just like a completely different severity of experience. Not to try to minimize anxiety. Anxiety is terrible. It'll ruin your life. It's debilitating. But once, where's my water bottle? Once you hit that state of traumatic stress and your memory fragments, and there's a great diminishment of functionality in your prefrontal cortex, your thinking brain, and time starts to feel distorted. And all these symptoms don't happen for every single person, but then you start to feel out of body, not a full out of body experience, but you know, you look at your hands, they just feel like they're not your own. You look in the mirror, you feel like you're looking at a stranger. You see your friends and family, and it feels like all the history's been erased. That is not the same as anxiety. Now, a lot of times people will experience trauma symptoms and fight or flight or anxiety symptoms together. Unless you're in the deepest state of trauma, which is where you go completely numb and you don't feel anxiety, you don't feel anything, you're just completely numb and dissociated. But it is a completely different experience. But not only that, it's a different part of the nervous system. DPDR are part of the dorsal vagal branch of the parasympathetic nervous system. Anxiety or fight or flight response is the sympathetic nervous system. So different branch of the nervous system, completely different experience. And I don't like the label anxiety either, because what is anxiety? That's so subjective, right? Let's be more correct in the language that we use. It's really fight or flight response. Okay? Your body is going into fight or flight response. But regardless of whether it's fight or flight response or the freeze or both, it's a threat response when there is no threat. And once we understand that that is the root problem, not the symptoms, which are there to help you, now we can start to focus on the solution, which is what? What is the opposite of threat? Safety. And I always tell people there are 4 primary things that studies have shown communicate safety to the nervous system. We've already talked about a lot of them. Self-regulation, getting the tension, adrenaline, emotion out of your body. Co-regulation, working with somebody that communicates safety through a secure attachment relationship, building hope in you, guiding you through the ups and downs of getting back into your body and learning how to self-regulate. The other is exposure. We've already talked a little bit about that, facing your sensory triggers. And some of you need to face your body. Some of you run from your body, and I get it. I used to have a severe heartbeat phobia. It was very uncomfortable. But facing life and not avoiding, because whatever you avoid, your brain assumes is a lion trying to eat you. And it just creates a very sensitized nervous system. And then the last thing is essentially getting the right information. It's technically called cognitive restructuring, but let's just simplify it and say neuroscience. It's getting the right information. Believe it or not, getting the right information is a big part of recovery. Again, not only is everybody looking for a technique, but everybody's looking for that one technique. Jordan's holding out on us. He's got some special, we're like, I don't have any special techniques. I don't. A lot of what I do is just encourage people and give them hope and be there for them. Like, I don't teach people anything that's that complicated. I don't teach them anything that I haven't told you about on this channel in one of my videos. It's a lot of things together that really produce enough sense of safety in the nervous system that your nervous system can start to calm down and not be preparing for a threat. And it takes a lot of time, but it's 100% doable, and it all starts with the right information though. Okay? So if that has helped you, smash the like button, hit subscribe, join this family, and comment below if you have any questions. And also make sure to check out the 5 shifts to heal from anxiety and depersonalization realization masterclass. There is a link below. I took about 6 months to record it, put my heart and soul into it. It'll go a little bit more in depth with some of these shifts that you need to make, and it will help you tremendously. That is it, and I hope you have an awesome day. We'll talk to you real soon.